Alright, so this is going to be the start of a new series on my channel, and I'm going to be calling it the Compound Quest, or TCQ for short. You can call this a trading challenge if you want. It's basically going to be me showing my trades, showing the progress of 2 trading accounts, which I just deposited money to. The accounts that I'm currently using are right now Antarctic, which is a DEX, and I am also using Weeks because I have low fees on it. So this is going to be the account that I use for, on the go if I'm trading when I'm not home. And when I am home, I'm going to be primarily trading on this exchange. And the idea is I deposited $500 split across 2 trading accounts. I will not withdraw from these trading accounts unless I switch exchanges or until the challenge or just series 1 of the challenge is over. And I'm going to be showing the P&L for every trade that I take on these accounts during the challenge. Some trades I will break down either with live recordings while I am taking the trades or by reviewing them later. I'm thinking that for every trade I take, I'm going to lock the position marker in place and put it in a folder. So I kind of have a folder of all the trades I've taken, in a week or however long I decide to split these segments up into. But I am thinking that ideally I want to make it a weekly thing. Like I want to make weekly updates, but I also know that I, won't always have enough content to make an episode every week. Some weeks I don't trade a lot. Sometimes I'm busy. Sometimes there's just not really many good trades to take, and I definitely don't want to be trying to force trades just for the sake of, having enough content for an episode. And finally, the goal of this challenge is to implement compounding, which if you don't know what that is, I will do a quick breakdown here, but I think I want to make a separate video where I kind of go more in depth into compounding and I show some examples. Basically, I do this by calculating my per trade risk based on fixed percentages of my trading capital rather than using a fixed USD value for my risk, which for me, I usually risk 3% or lower per trade. It's typically, more in the range of 0.5% to 2%. But I would say for most trades, I take a 1% risk. And, that means that every trade I take, even though it's the same 1%, that number should change slightly whether I won my last trade or lost my last trade. And as long as I am overall profitable, this will effectively reinvest my profits and speed up the rate at which I scale up my trading size. And this can also help to slow down losses. If you are compounding, I think you should do it both ways. And another key point to this that I didn't mention is not withdrawing. Because if you withdraw, you're basically setting back your progress for compounding. And this part, truthfully, has been something that I've struggled with for a while, along with, being a consistently profitable trader, which is hard enough on its own. But I finally feel like I'm at a point where I can commit some money to actually trying to apply my skills and compound and do that over the long run. So going forward, I'm going to be attempting to compound not just what I have in these trading accounts, but what I have in my spot accounts and on other trading accounts as well, because I think that is the smartest way to apply the skills of trading that I've been practicing over the last however many years it's been. And with that being said, that basically does it for the intro. I'm going to be tracking my progress on one of these spreadsheets. I'll try and make a chart that shows my progress as well. I'm going to be showing the P&L for every single trade that I take on these accounts, and I just went through and, opened a bunch of minimum trades and tried to close them out for 0 P&L. So those 3 trades basically separate everything I did prior. Same goes for this account over here, these 3 zeros basically mark the start of the challenge, so everything after it counts. Okay, so I just entered my first trade of the challenge. I've been awake trading all day, and unfortunately I didn't find anything. There were a few decent trades in hindsight, some trades that actually ended up giving pretty good risk rewards, like I could have longed this down here, but basically I was watching this range. I was looking for a trade at the high or the low of the range. I was looking for a short up here if there were confirmations once we got above VWAP, but we just ended up back testing and going higher. And we ended up breaking above this high, which I think is a key high right now. I'm looking at it as a higher time frame market structure point, a lower high, and we closed above it on the 30-minute. We are now back testing some key support. We're back testing VWAP, and I got a little long confirmation. Now, I did take a scalp risk on this, which is a 0.5 for me. I didn't take a full 1%, even though it was looking like a pretty good trade. But I am looking to add to this. If we can break above this high right here, basically this small range that we're trading in, and there's another trade after that, then I'll take another 0.5% risk. But yeah, currently I'm risking $2.50. And I'm looking for about a 3-to-1 up to around these highs for my first TP. And after that, this high is really important. So depending on what happens here, I may target the next high above it, or maybe I TP, if we SFP this. So I just hit TP1 on this trade. I didn't take another long. I was looking for one possibly after we started ranging in here. This was looking kind of bullish, but we just kind of broke straight up to my target. I was hoping to aim for a little bit higher, but we rejected right off daily open. And it's about to be Asia sessions, so things can get kind of sketchy around Asia. I wanted to lock in profits, close out 1/3 of the trade for about what I risked on it. I got a little bit less than my 0.5%, but I also moved my stop loss up above my entry, so I am locking in an extra 62 cents now. Yeah, there's really no reason to have my stop loss lower than this point. If we lose this mini range, it's not really looking bullish anymore, I don't think. At least in terms of the move to the upside from this low. I think if we lose this area, we're probably coming down to this low at least. So it's now Sunday the 15th. The trading week is over. I have taken a lot more trades, and I will go ahead and spoil it. I did not have a good trading week. Wasn't terrible. It was far from my worst trading week I've ever had. I think every trade I took was a valid setup, but of course, in hindsight, you can always look at things that you could have done better. Let me just run over all the trades. So this long right here was the one that you just saw. That was the one I entered while I was recording. So I went over this one. I locked in 0.5% at this high, and that was the only TP I took on this trade. I actually did end up taking another long pretty soon after. And again, it was a valid setup. I think my only mistake was trusting the first bullish setup that we saw basically after Asia Open. Because, of course, that ended up being a trap. We just rejected off VWAP, came lower, stopped me out, and then eventually later on, we got a move up basically to my target. We actually ended up front running it just barely, which we actually front ran that during New York session, so that's kind of odd. Eventually ended up breaking down from this sideways range. And let me go over these two trades. So I have the A's below them that shows that they are on the Antarctic Exchange. This right here was the first trade I took, plus $2.90. Very soon after, I entered another long, and that one was a $3 loss. Then I eventually ended up trying a short trade here. Now this was actually the start of a very frustrating series of events, we can say, because this short should have been a very good winner. I made a very silly mistake, we'll say. I tried to de-risk this trade too early. Once we started breaking down from where I entered within this candle. So yeah, we got a bearish confirmation up here. We lost VWAP. I entered a short once we lost VWAP, and I ended up de-risking this trade for the simple reason that we SFP'd this low. So that SFP was sketchy. That told me that we could start ranging here, and that a move back up towards the high of this range is very possible. So I don't really want to keep my stop loss all the way up here, risking that full 1% that I was risking. So what I did is I moved my stop loss down. But as price started approaching it, so as price started coming up, we got a very aggressive move right there. We started breaking above VWAP. And I played that game that I'm not supposed to play, where, I already de-risked, but I started moving my stop loss up, and eventually it got tagged basically on this high, if I were to guess. I got tagged at a terrible spot. If I continue playing this out, yep, we eventually dumped straight down and broke the range to the downside, so I ended up getting clipped out at a terrible place. This was the short that I took. I entered at 108,500. If I go over here, that is right where I entered. So, yeah, I took almost that full 1% risk that I, initially entered with. I de-risked it to, I think, 0.5% risk, and then played that game where I moved my stop loss up, just to, actually get stopped out at the top. And then I had to watch price absolutely tank if I exit the bar replay. If I kept my stop loss at entry, let's say I didn't get stopped out here and it kept on playing out, I would have been up, 6, 7%, 8%, I could have locked in a great profit here. And then I probably would have just kept my stop loss at my entry, which actually would have survived this, unless there was a strange wick on weeks. Sometimes that can happen. These can have like different wicks across different exchanges, but I think that short would have stayed open for this entire move to the downside. So that really sucked. That really sucked, especially since I then went on to take a couple more losses. This, and this were all losses trying to short. These ones down here were pretty garbage trades. I mean, in hindsight, I was trying to short the low, but we had front run support down here. I was hoping to see a move down to this support zone. We kind of bottomed out in the middle of nowhere, which is why I was trying to short that. But yeah, let me just quickly run over all these trades. 107,500 was my entry, and that would be this trade right here. So that was another $4 loss. Then down here, I took 2 shorts on Antarctic. These 2 trades right here, the last 2 trades, were both shorts that I entered on the 12th, and I took a $2.7 loss and a $3.3 loss roughly. Fast forward a little bit more, and I tried another short here. This, I think, was, a much better short attempt than these ones down here. The only issue I have with this one is I, in hindsight, should have de-risked this one. But I guess maybe I just had PTSD from this trade back here because I did not de-risk it. So this was 105, 100 roughly on weeks. So that would be this short, and yep, I took basically a full 1% loss on that one. I was trying to size down as I was taking losses, and that's what you're supposed to do if you're compounding. And finally, I actually had, a somewhat decent winning trade with this $6 trade that I took after that. So that would be this trade over here. I did get a little greedy because I was very hesitant to take profits down in this range. I actually ended up taking profits once we got this last SFP here and started aggressively moving to the upside. I think I took profits like somewhere around here, which was not a 3-to-1. I had to close half the trade to even lock in that $6. And yeah, that was almost at a 2-to-1. So that was pretty garbage. I wish I took profits down here. I mean, in hindsight, I should have closed the whole trade here, but I was still working with the logic that I think we probably will see another move to the downside to hit this support. I don't think this looks like a good low. But at the same time, once I saw evidence of us ranging here and, I mean, clearly getting SFPs of the low with bullish divergences, I definitely should have been more aggressive to take profit on that low. So yeah, I mean, I did not manage that one great, I don't think, but at least, I made back some of my losses. And that's where we're at now. That was the last trade I took. So I have updated my spreadsheet here. So I am down about $17. So just over 3% loss on the week. I, again, will say, I am not too disappointed in my trading this week. It is discouraging when, you take valid trade setups and they don't work out. The key point is I did not really, for the most part, let that affect my trading decisions. I was patient. I waited for good trade setups, and unfortunately, this is something that happens. Those good trade setups just did not end up working out. There were multiple losses in a row, which when you're playing a game of probabilities, that happens, even though, I would call them high probability setups, or at least high enough probability that they make sense with the risk reward that I'm taking. When you're playing a game of probabilities, you have to know that you can get unlucky and you can't have a lot of trades back to back to back be losers, even though they technically should not have been. So that concludes episode 1. Not a great start, but we will try and make next week better. All right, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. I appreciate all the support on my channel, and I'll see you all in the next episode.